Hola, buenos días.
Good morning to you all. Can you hear me well? First of all, I would like to thank the organizers of the INTA seminar for inviting me to take part in this panel. I would like as well to congratulate the organizers because the organization is excellent, and I would like to greet especially Aina Pons, the one that has been in contact with me for the last few months. I'm going to talk about creative tourism. I don't think it's a luxury if I start doing a presentation following a timeline, trying to explain what brought about the setting up of an international network for the creation of tourism network. We didn't wake up one morning and say, oh, we are going to set up a creative tourism network. No, it was a process, natural, cohesive process, and it's important to highlight the process because the process is one of the key elements to able us to manage a new type of tourism, which is the tourism of value linked to the humans or the human aspect. The origins were in a cultural foundation, Societat y Cultura, culture and society. For the last 30 years, the foundation has been in charge of managing cultural activities in Barcelona, always with a participative component, involving the society in the organization of cultural and artistic activities. Here we have some examples. This is an encounter of amateur orchestras in Barcelona from all over the world. For instance, the Day of the Music in Barcelona, we invite as well amateur and professional musicians to take part. Oh, we have been working in the organization of other projects which start using the collective imaginary involving the whole society. So the natural process was that one day we saw that we were having more and more applications from foreign non-national groups asking for help to bring about an artistic project in Barcelona. They weren't professional artists. That would be normal commercial circuit. No, they were people that had a creative spirit and they wanted to do something. They wanted to have their own experience in the city of Barcelona. One day, someone called us from the city hall. There's a choir. They want to give a concert here, but we haven't got the tool to manage this type of queries. Could you help them? Could you organize managing the event? Something similar came, another query from the tourist board. So at the beginning, we helped them to organize things, but that was a trend upwards. We kept receiving this type of queries. Simultaneously, we found out the work of Professor Greg Richard, and we were very lucky to be able to listen to him yesterday, who has been working a lot on the concept of creative tourism. So we diagnosed all these queries, and we thought, yeah, these are creative people that come to us asking for support to implement their projects. So these are the creative tourists. Then we proposed the setting up of a platform in Barcelona to give body to this type of idea, to generate resources that could be useful for all these people horizontally, trying to cover a whole branch of different artistic industries. And we have a city which seems to be very creative, and then things happen. Dwellers of Barcelona themselves, they take part in all kinds of activities. We know the Fiestas de Gracia with the amazing decoration, which is made up, created by the residents in the streets. The Castellers, the human towers, this is a very clear example of participation, teamwork, and anything that is based on maintaining, preserving the savoir-faire, the know-how of the craft, the traditional arts, and arts in general in Barcelona. Another interesting criteria, another added point, is the tissue, the fabric existing already in the city, which makes it very easy to mix different arts. For instance, we see here a concert in an art gallery, or other initiatives, like what we see here on the screen, a festival in the halls of buildings, which shows that Barcelona has not only the architectonical heritage and the artwork of Gaudí and other many artists that had lived and created in the city, but there's as well a very fertile creative fabric that can generate all these kind of proposals and enhance participation in the city. And we have already a tourism destination. We all know that Barcelona has made a lot of effort in the last few decades to have proper infrastructures and develop and promote tourism and this type of tourism. So the platform was set up with the support of the City Hall and the Tourism Board. And then we saw how this type of claims came to us. As soon as the webpage was opened, we received many, quite a lot, claims and queries from creative tourists that identified themselves in our projects. And they started presenting proposals of projects, asking for our support. Here we see two students from Saudi Arabia. They wanted to come to Barcelona to work or to learn the painting techniques that had a very specific influence from an artist, Jimeno. So very specific queries. Someone else, this girl, what she wanted in her first stay in Barcelona, she was from the Bahamas. She wanted to take part in a ceramic class, a pottery class. She spent here 5 days, and the course was going on every morning. Some Swedish students here that came to study the glass, stained glass technique. So we see other type of tourists that, due to their ages, may have different priorities or different interests. Of course, all these people, they ended up visiting the city center and the tourist sites, but they had very specific interests. In this case, learning the stained glass technique. As well, we have choirs, orchestras, all type of choirs and orchestras. The one that is more relevant this year was a choir from the Kingston University. They came to Barcelona and they rented the Palau of the Catalan music, Música Catalana, to give a concert open to the audiences. And it was there was a surprise because I found the Palau asking for rent. And the Palau said, but do they know what they're going to sing? Of course, they're very aware. And they came, and they had worked on the repertoire, on Catalan music. They sang in Catalan, and we were in charge of the communication. So they could invite the audience from Barcelona, the Barcelona's public. So they came, they did for free in altruistic approach, and it was very moving. Here we have a Russian mathematics teacher who came to Barcelona to do swing dancing. She knows Barcelona, she was there before, and she enjoyed the architectonical side, but now in her second visit she has another goal, swing dancing. That's why she's coming back. The platform works at 2 levels. On one hand, the direct communication between proposals that we have broken down according to the different lines of creative tourism, according to certain criteria, authenticity and creativity. The creative tourist contacts the offers, and then we have this kind of offers that we find in the streets nearly, and we contact them and we ask them, do you want to have more projection, more visibility to your offer? And then another level, which requires working together, having other partners in order to be able to develop the projects. For instance, if we have to have a concert or meet the artists, organize all kind of workshops, cooking, dancing, taking part in traditional festivities or exhibit in Barcelona, all these projects require an operator, which is the one between the tourism part and the artistic part, is the link. This is the role of the operator, trying to adapt the creative proposals to allow to the tourism industry to offer them without losing creativity nor productivity. So these are tailor-made proposals and on-demand services. The role of the operator is very important because the creative tourism have very specific approaches and they're very creative. And because they're creative, they come with their demand, with their project, but that can be anything. It could be totally atypical. So we have to be ready for anything. We need to have resources and a structure to be able to react to our best possible. The creative tourist, and this is the example of Barcelona, was becoming a more consolidated phenomenon, but it wasn't happening only in Barcelona. We could see that it was a new profile, meaning it is very difficult to determine the profile of the creative tourism because it can come up in many different facets. There's one thing that is very clear, and this is a new trend. Creative tourism is a segment of this trend of a tourist that wants to be the main character, the actor or actress. So the tourist imposes a demand and asks to the tourism industry to adapt to his or her demand. We saw that when even the tour operators themselves started making phone calls, asking for support to answer to this type of queries because they didn't have the infrastructure. And we thought it was very important to have cooperation from both sides. So we have a new tourist, polyphacetic tourist. We know that the border between work and leisure is becoming more and more vague. The tourist wants to enjoy new experiences when he's abroad on holidays, and creative tourism is one of the aspects that will facilitate that, because the tourist doesn't address only creators or artists that have skills and abilities. So these are not the children of the nobility that used to go on the European Grand Tour. No, it's spreading to a wider segment of the population. For instance, this year we had creative tourism in many proposals of students' holidays or travel. For instance, students that come to Barcelona for 5 days, they want to devote at least half a day to creative tourism, because it's one of the experiences that is more unforgettable and even brings about cohesion in the group and facilitates meeting the locals. So it's one of the best souvenirs of their stay. So it's not tourism going from one point to another point. We go from one point to visit another point. No, it goes beyond that. It's territory tourism. People may come for a very specific objective, like taking part in a swing festival, like the Russian mathematics teacher. But what they want really is to go deeper in the territory. Yesterday, for instance, we received a claim from a creative tourist from London who wants to do a jewelry design workshop in Barcelona in November. And she wrote in Catalan. She made the effort to write in Catalan. So they want to interact with the local population. They really make it very clear. This type of tourism tries to move away from the superlative. They don't want to see the highest tower, the biggest stadium, the unique palace in Europe. No, they look for a fabric. For this reason, it is very important to cooperate not only with the tourism and industry and cultural industries, but it is very important as well to cooperate with the whole society. So we have to be transversal, we have to offer authenticity, and we have to be plural. As well, cost is important. Apart from cases like the choir that was able to rent the Palau de la Música in general, for individual travelers, the cost of the holiday shouldn't be too high. For this reason, it is important to outsource the activities in order to not to break the productivity chain of the tourism industry, so we can be able to delegate. After placing ourselves in the perspective of the creative tourist, to find out who the creative tourist is and what would he or she expect, we have to see the perspective of the receiving end. It could be the responsible for local development or the tourism companies. Another example, another vision, a different vision that was highly appreciated by a group that came to Barcelona. They visited the creative workshops of the Raval. Raval is a neighborhood in Barcelona. If we go to Google and we enter workshops and Raval, we know that Raval is a very creative neighborhood, but we have to go inside the workshops. If not, we are not going to see the creativity. So with person-to-person contacts, we organized visits to these workshops, and we gave a different vision. We are not going to transform the destination Barcelona proposing workshops of the Sagrada Familia, but we cannot ignore this new demand, and it is very important to be ready for it. Among the benefits from the perspective of the receiving side of the creative tourist is a tourism that has many benefits. In many cases, it generates an encounter with the local residents, local population, which creates cultural enrichment, mainly in areas where there's a lack of trust. For instance, I was in the north of France this week, and due to the past, they still talk about the victims of the Second World War, or they still talk about the loss, economic loss due to all the landmines. So they need this type of tourism to establish cohesion between residents and visitors. So instead of lamenting and deploring, they can share their views and their tradition and their culture with the foreign visitors. It makes it possible as well to recover and maintain tangible and intangible heritage. It brings about diversification of tourism because it is compatible in the same destination with other types of tourists. And it has an effect, a positive effect upon the profitability of the infrastructures. As the example of the Palau de la Música, but any other theater or auditorium can increase their offer. They can rent their premises to creative tourists. There's a guarantee of authenticity, sets up a good principles framework with this type of offer, tackles seasonality, is a type of tourist that can come all year round, both at a geographical level, there's no high concentration. the creative tourism can go to different places, different times of the year. So even if they go during their stay to visit the emblematic tourist sites, they are going to stay maybe somewhere else, maybe close to the pottery workshop or their language courses, generating thus a new source of income without creating the negative effects of high levels of concentration of tourism. It's a way as well of attracting talent, very important, and moreover, it generates economic growth. In order to know who could be identified behind this type of tourists, we set up a network because people before or after Barcelona, maybe they wanted to do something similar somewhere else. So we set up an international network of creative tourism with partners of Paris and Rome. The main goal was not only to give more visibility to the capitals, but to open the door to destinations that want to welcome creative tourism, want to facilitate this type of tourism. Moreover, the shape and form of the projects could be very different. So we made a call of proposal to see who could see themselves there. And we had a very positive surprise. Some cities were basing their proposal in a cluster of creative tourism. They wanted to set up bridges opening it to creative tourists. Others were other specific places, like some that I visit in France. They're trying to delocalize macro museums, for instance, satellite museums of the Pompidou or the Louvre museums, moving them to other regions or areas, because they were aware that people go to visit the museum, but they don't stay there for 2-3 days, as they had expected. So they think that creative tourism is a way to facilitate the visitors to stay for a longer period. Other destinations that presented proposals to our call for proposals were neighborhoods. So we are not talking about a city or a region. We are talking about neighborhoods. For instance, in Holland, in a city of Holland, a neighborhood presented a proposal to become a center for creative tourism. Rural areas as well, obviously, and monuments as well, or sites. Maybe a monument that is not part of the tourism fabric. In order to lengthen the stay of the tourism, they propose activities of creative tourism. We have such diversity that we were extremely happy, because we didn't want to have standard proposals. But then we saw that from the network, we couldn't offer one single magic recipe to develop all these projects. The main thing was that every single one of the destinations had their own development, and from the network, we could give them visibility. So the creative tourists could decide themselves where to go for their next holidays. And we offer a guarantee of good principles of authenticity, originality, and that wouldn't fail upon their expectations. In order to be more visible, or to give more visible to all these proposals, in order to promote the destination, we set up as well routes, itineraries. Let's say we have a tourist that has interest in painting or in stained glass, can have different suggestions, so that person can do a different itinerary in Europe or worldwide, because we have as well queries from other cities, from other continents beyond Europe. To sum up, I know that there's going to be a question here that you are going to ask. Creative tourism, is it a niche? Of course. This is how it was defined at the beginning is a niche tourism, of course. However, nowadays, if we ignore all the different niches of tourism in a market which is more and more segmented, we are going following the wrong path. On the contrary, I think that we have to take seriously into account all these different forms of tourism and make the most of the possibilities to create synergies, both among industries and segments and niches. That's all. Thank you very much.
Bueno, buenos días. Bueno, yo soy el...
Good morning. I am the one who's going to give the session on technology. On a series of experiences, I know this is going to be the hardest session to digest, but I'll try to make it as easy as possible. Before I begin, I'd like to speak about 4 technological tendencies, 4 ideas that will help us very much to to see how technology can help transform the destination, how it can give us the tools to change the destination and enhance what we were talking about yesterday, the unique brand and the accessibility.
Un poco en esos escenarios, ¿no?
Those technological tendencies, some of them are real. They exist in the commerce, in the marketing, in the distribution of packets, and maybe not so much in the structuring of the destination. I'll start with the first one, interoperability. This is a fact today. All applications nowadays are connected through web services. That means that you can get in touch with another application in another place. So if you have permissions, you can execute processes in another computer. So this picture illustrates that idea. This is the panel in which many companies reach agreements to manage together their capacities. A clear example is nowadays the selling of electronic tickets. You know that you have companies who receive all the information of the airlines and offers comparative prices. So what we can deduce on this is that our capacity is not based on what we can process, but on what we can orchestrate as a company. This is important because in the past it was not so, and technology has now allowed us to do this. Then we have social networks. Really, they have had a lot of influence. There is even a department in Lufthansa of 17 people that are constantly watching what comes out in the social networks, because precisely we had the example yesterday of the guitar singer and the American Airlines, and it really can have very strong effects on the companies, the social networks. But it not only affects the image of companies, it also creates interests. For instance, the owners of hotel chains are together in a network of interest communities. So nowadays, what we used to call the mouth to mouth is now a global thing, really. A third tendency is the NUI, the natural user interface. Everybody uses mobiles, tablets, iPads, etc. And this has an interesting aspect, and that is that in the past we were used to being in touch with people who maybe we went to the reception of a hotel and we found the receptionist was dealing with a computer, and we saw them dealing with the computer, and we didn't really know what they were doing behind the computer. Sometimes we saw that they had some difficulties, etc. But we didn't know what they were doing. And now with the natural user interfaces, we won't need to get in touch with that person anymore because we'll be users ourselves. Now we'll have contact surfaces where we can sell articles. We can actually put the article on top of a screen and it recognizes it. And the games, for instance, as well, with their own tactile language, are integrating a new way of interaction. And what I want to say with this is that there won't be anybody behind the computer anymore. The client is a new user of the information system with this new tactile language that is being developed nowadays. And the fourth technology tendency is the cloud computing. The cloud computing implies a new era in computing. It means that we're not going to need anymore to have the programs on our computer. They will be in the cloud. Like Google programs are not on the computer, they're in the cloud. And all the computing programs and services will soon be also in the cloud, not only due to costs, but also due to seasonality. That is to say, if I use it, I pay for it. If I don't use it, I don't pay for it. So this means that the strong investments in IT won't be necessary anymore, because we will be able to access all of that from the cloud. Those were the four aspects that I wanted to tackle in order to give the basis to see how to transform the destination. Those tendencies will develop. A lot of the technology that I'm going to talk about exists, but is not yet on the market due to a question of price, really. But as you know, in technology, everything is just a matter of time. Tablets, for example, that now cost 400, 500 euros are much greater and have great superiority over the first computers that used to cost 1 million pesetas, for instance. And I mean, regarding space and everything, they're really superior. Now, I'd like to give you an example of a food court in Las Vegas. Those of you that have been in the United States probably know what a food court is. It's a place where people go and get fed. Google translates the term as a patio for food in Spanish, patio de comidas. I like the translation, says the speaker. And it's a place where everybody shares the space. There are different restaurants, different specialities. The quality of life of food, I don't know. Most of it is fast food. Everything is very well structured, very well organized. I can go to the food court and choose what I like. Everything is very well organized. This is another example of food court in Marrakesh, is the square Yama Helfna. But here they're not different. They all do and make the same food. The only difference is based on which side of the square you come in, basically. And then you're dragged into somewhere specific to eat. It's, it can be kind of tiring to try to find your own way. My idea is not to say which is the best touristic option, really. That's not my aim. But I wanted to compare, like, option A, the food court in Las Vegas, has a openness, if you want. There is a win-win culture, and they invest in infrastructures. Whereas the option B costs very high. I mean, for us, this wouldn't be possible because at the sanitary level, we wouldn't be able to do that. And besides, I mean, it would be, apart from the fact that the infrastructure is not very organized, and legal regulations do not really exist, and on top of it, the costs are expensive. Well, what do we decide? Do we want to take the blue pill or the red pill? In any of the two cases, technology can help. Technology can create that court, virtual court, where all of the offer is available and accessible. The more differentiated the offer is, all the best, and the more we believe in it, well, the best for the visitor as well, because the big chain can also complement itself with other smaller services, or maybe the small supplier can actually access to sell its products through a market which in principle is not accessible to him. And in a way in which all its offer is structured and the visitor can access their products from anywhere. Nowadays, we see more and more people traveling with tablets, having all of the information they need with the tablets because they got the GPS and all of that.
Realmente esto existe en varias.
In the present scenarios, we have examples of co-patents, of interoperability. There are portals, there are GDS, there are all of those things. There is still a long way to go, but the first steps have already been taken. The visits are indexes, galleries, activities, but we should go a step forward, really, and go towards the destination interacting as a unique brand. But for that purpose, what is important is not only the technology, but a change in the rules of the tourism model. And obviously, we need to propose scenarios of offers that will offer something holistically. That is, the whole is more important than the parts. So we all work together, we all work on the one umbrella, on the one voice, and in that way we can add a value. How can that be done? Well, obviously through interactive paths, not only as indexes of the spaces, the locals, the events, all of the offer, but that also would allow the interaction with buying tickets for a museum, for going to the theater, for anything that would like to do, and combined with information of the different places, locations, and combined with the information of the users, catalogs of unique services. This is very important as well. Can we create a dynamic platform of service offices, for instance? They could really be under a unique platform accessible for all of the tourism agents, or even dynamic signaling. There is a picture there that tries to exemplify that. They haven't chosen Oxford Street with many shops, but you can see there that the mobile identifies all the names of the streets and places. So it is a technology that we can actually use nowadays. And then we have the 3D picture trips. It's another technology that we can use. And here we can find, like I've seen it in the United States, a kitchen shop, and you can actually just buy any of the products there by seeing the products through the phone, or maybe the virtual traveling. Virtual traveling of a destination in which you can actually access all the information that you like about the place. All in all, it is a project that in my company and through the Microsoft Center we have developed, and we want to have a virtual desk in the hotels as well as at the airport. A desk where you can find all of the available information of the complementary offer in a certain destination for the user's use. Interoperability 2P2 from peer-to-peer is a computing concept, and it allows the suppliers to publish their offer, administrate it, and all of that. Obviously, there should be someone behind all of that. We're not sure now whether it will be done by public or private agents. We'll have to clarify that in order to make it happen. But all of this is possible as long as, and that's the first necessary condition, we give one step forward. That is that the information systems must understand each other. All of the information systems of all those companies that are part of this network have to have a common language, have to have a system that when somebody sends a booking, the other one will understand it. There are the models of data, the OTA from Open Travel, that are very good, but they're too complex for our scenario because they want to sort of, it's a system that wants to organize all of the travel agencies. But it's too complicated for us. And actually the Association of Hotel Owners in the United States have selected OTA rules only for hotelry. We were thinking in Mallorca about doing the same, actually. And Touristec decided to develop one for ourselves. Why? Because this system did not give us something essential, which is to be able to identify the resources in a unique way. Like everybody needs to understand each other, but for example, the area of Puerto Poyensa have to have the same code, the same unique reference system. And this is what we actually need in Touristec. We need a tool that will help us to structure the destination. And we impulse Cabal. Cabal is the standard of unification that Touristec is developing. It's an I+ a research and development project, R&D, which wants to unify all petitions. We have unified all the IT companies. We have given them all our explanations, PME, small and medium companies, travel agencies, etc., etc. All the specifications in a common language. Talking about night stays, transport, general and complementary offers. So those 4 groups. And what we want to do is through Caval make all of the things that I spoke about possible. And us in our company, we have a hotel program with travel agencies and flying companies, and we explain Caval to all of them in order to make sure we can bring forward all of this system. I'd like to excuse myself for the fact that maybe this has been a speech that hasn't been very academic, really. I've been going from the end to the beginning. Cabal is what we have now. But I wanted to compare that because before nobody knew the area of Mallorca, thank you to our infrastructures, which is what has allowed us to become what we are. So Cabal is the language that is going to help us make all of these scenarios possible. Thank you very much for your attention. I'll be here. There is my email on the screen. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to come over to me during coffee time. Thank you very much.
Good morning. Well, Luis has already done the introduction, so I'm going to talk to you about psychoblock, or deep water soloing, and why is this something important in the hiking, climbing, and adventure tourism. I'm going to start talking about climbing in Mallorca. It started back in the 70s. Since then, we have many walls that have been equipped. We have many ways. We have tried to promote climbing in Mallorca all over the world. We have published 2 climbing guides. We have published many articles in climbing magazines. So Mallorca now is in the spotlight in the world of climbing. People know that you can do climbing in Mallorca. But that's all. People weren't really making big efforts to come here to climbing. Mallorca wasn't a world reference for climbing, unlike other places, despite the fact that we have one of the best weathers in the world and the best rocks for climbing in the world. And here where psychoblock has a role to play. First, I'm going to explain to you. It means just climbing, solo rock climbing on the sea cliffs with no ropes, free climbing. It started in Mallorca because it's the ideal place. In summer, it's very hot. When climbers go up to the mountain, it's very hot. So we go to the sea cliffs looking for cool places. The good thing about it is that all the things that we hadn't managed to achieve the traditional climbing regarding promotion of the sport abroad, we managed to achieve with psychoblock, with this solo rock climbing. If you ask any climber anywhere in the world, psychoblock, Mallorca. It goes hand in hand. Psychoblock is linked to Mallorca. Everybody knows that psychoblock is a sport that is practiced in Mallorca. Mallorca is the best place in the world to practice psychoblock, so we are the international reference for this kind of a sport. So we have managed to put Mallorca on the sports map. We have developed many areas of a psychoblock, many of them. You have a picture of them. I could have threefold more pictures, but then you wouldn't be able to see. These are cliffs, the ways, the paths are marked, and everything is in Mallorca. This is a lot of work and effort, though we love the work, and it's fun. And we are the best place now in the world in order to do this type of climbing. We have published many articles in different climbing magazines, in some other type of magazine like Lifestyle, The Journal, and others. And again, I have only a few covers of some of the Spanish magazines, but we have published in many international magazines, but I had no room on the screen to show all the magazines. Documentaries, many of them. Some We have shot them ourselves, and we have gone to all the cities where we have been invited, broadcasting the documentaries and giving talks and conferences, explaining why Mallorca is such an ideal place for climbing. And then many TV channels have come themselves, have come to us doing feature programs on these sports. For instance, the NBC. The NBC from the States, they did a program, Adventure in Mallorca, very important. German TV channels, all the Spanish TV channels have come here to do a documentary. We have worked with a very famous program in Spain, To the Edge of the Impossible, with a lot of prestige. We have as well a very good project with the previous government 2 terms ago, which never came to term though. And especially due to the documentaries and to our promotion travels, trying to make psycho-block known all over the world, the NBC decided to sponsor a documentary. Is the one that you see, is the Pontas, is the name of the rock formation there. That's the title of the documentary. It's in the south of the island, in a place called Cala Santanyí. We climbed that rock formation, and we shot a documentary. We won an Emmy Awards. As you know, the Emmy Awards are like the Oscars on TV. Never a documentary on climbing had won an Emmy and had such an impact, especially in the United States. But according to the CEO of NBC, these were the sports documentary that had more viewers in the whole NBC records. I didn't do much. Mainly I was there and I had a bit of camera, but we had a TV crew that came and shot the documentary. I was in charge of it. We did a documentary. We went to the United States on tour. I gave about 4 or 5 talks in English with my lousy, very poor English. It was a disaster. I went to California, but the crew, they went to all the states, 54 states, from Alaska to Miami. Since then, we have received the visit of many Americans to practice psychoblock, or not only psychoblock, traditional climbing, other type of climbing, or to visit the island. Thanks to that, we haven't been working very hard to promote. We haven't asked any entity to give us support promoting this activity. These things came easily to us. They came from outside, actually. People came to us looking for us. So Red Bull as well came to us. Red Bull are very good in marketing terms. They have a lot of marketing strength. And we organized an international encounter of climbers. So what I do when I can is bring things to my land. I'm from Mallorca. I want to promote Mallorca, and I want to promote climbing, and I want to promote adventure sports in Mallorca, but because this is what I like. So we had this international meeting. We had the best climbers in the world. We rented a boat, and we sailed along the island, trying to look for the best spots where to practice this psycho block. We shot everything. Was shot. It was loaded on the web. And we tried to make it to the TVs, and it was very easy. We had on all the news programs. We had on the main Spanish news program. So that was amazing, amazing publicity, which is what Red Bull wants. Moreover, we have received other contacts. People want us to use psychoblock in other places, as we are doing here. Psychoblock is the image of adventure climbing in Mallorca. So it could be the image of adventure sports in general in Mallorca. So this is something that we could use and make the most of it. We have done nothing here. We have never worked with any entity or with any private company of the tourism industry. However, we have organized the first international master of psychoblock in Bilbao. They cannot climb in Bilbao because they have no walls. So we did as Muhammad. This is a Spanish saying, if Muhammad doesn't go to the mountain, we'll take the mountain to Muhammad. This is a Spanish saying, so that's what we did. We organized a kind of fake walls in Bilbao, as you can see there, and it was a great success. It was sponsored by the most important bank in the Basque Country and the City Hall in Bilbao. This year we're going to have the second edition of this International Master. They want to do it every year in Bilbao. They want as well to link the image of a psycho-block, which is health, sports, healthy life, with Bilbao. So not only Guggenheim, they want to give a lot of visibility. If you do something which is very spectacular, it's very easy that you'll be shown in all TV channels, in all news programs. This summer, last summer, we organized a psycho-block meeting in Sesimbra in Portugal. Not only to do psycho-block, we were invited by the Chamber of Commerce of Sesimbra. Sesimbra is a tourist town in Portugal. They want to diversify. They don't want to offer only sun and sand. So I was invited together with other climbers to give them different ideas, what could be done in their town area, in their local area, to promote adventure tourism, to give them ideas of possible activities. They'll develop them, but we were there to give them ideas. So again, this year we took part in, or we organized an international psycho-block competition, in Arendal, Norway, for the same reason. So when people see psycho-block, they think of Arendal in Norway, and they can link psycho-block with the place, with the destination. The same in Brazil 2 years ago. In Colombia, psycho-block in Colombia 1 year ago. Everywhere they want the same thing. They ask us what are the possibilities of the area, not only for psycho-block, but for climbing in general, for canyoning, meaning going down canyons, all type of sports, adventure sports. We go there, we do our best, and simply they like it. Why should we show interest in adventure tourism, and why it is interesting for these other places? Because it's not during the high season. They tend to come in group. It's not only one person to go alone climbing. You have groups 4 or 5 people. It could be up to 15 people that go climbing, or even the family could go with them. It's a sport that in Spain is very young as an important sport, but in Europe it has more tradition. Many people were born in climbing families. The parents were climbers, so the children grew up climbing, so it's a family sport. And then something which is very important is it's going to be very careful tourist. They don't want to destroy things. They want to go to a nice restaurant, to go to bed early and be fresh next morning, to be able to climb next morning. So they're very polite, they're very formal, and again, they're very polite with the environment. These are people that spend time in nature, in the mountain. They were brought up in family where there's love for nature, so that they're not going to destroy nature on the environment. This is very important because not all visitors are like that. It's important that they care for nature and the mountain. Adventure tourism, both climbing or canyoning, meaning going down canyons, has been promoted in the last 10, 15 years. In Arco, they have been promoting it for the last 10 years. They organized an event this year because it was the 20th anniversary of an international sports event that is organized. There was no tourism in Arco at all whatsoever 20 years ago. The same in Kalymnos. This is a Greek island. They had nothing to offer to visitors. Guara, again, Guara, it was a place with empty villages, abandoned village. They had left the villages because there was nothing to do there. People go there to do hiking, trekking, going down canyons, climbing, but the villages were abandoned, and now some of the villages, it's difficult to find a house. They're very expensive due to the fact that adventure sports and tourism have been promoted. People go there to climb because it's a very good climbing area. The same in Kalymnos or Arco. Arco is the standard, is the reference. Arco didn't have great conditions for climbing, but they made the most of every single boulder or rock or wall, and they have equipped everything. They have a climbing way, they have set up facilities like toilets, they have organized competitions, which is a showroom to promote their town, their area, to enter in the climbing world. If you go to Arco, all the shops sell climbing equipment, always packed with people. This year, this same year, the City Hall, or the consortium of city halls in Arco, spent 900,000 euro in the competition. To me, this is an extraordinary amount, and in equipment and fixed facilities for climbing, so when the weather is bad, they can have indoor climbing possibilities. In artificial world, they have spent 1.3 million this year for a place with no many conditions. Maybe they need to spend all this money. We don't need to spend anything in Mallorca. We have wonderful weather, wonderful climbing walls. The promotion is there. Mallorca is known. Now, Psychoblog has given visibility to Mallorca as much as Arco. All the climbers know Mallorca as a climbing place. Ronda in Malaga, now the City Hall is paying the equipment. Up to now, what we did climbers, we were the one that were equipping the climbing walls. In Psychoblog, you need nothing. But for climbing, we have done everything. And we paid for everything, for all the equipment. And when the equipment are, and the locks and the hooks that we leave on the walls when they are not in proper condition, we are in charge of making sure that they're okay, and we change them. This is unusual. Imagine like basketball. Like they had to, the basketball players, they had to build their own basketball pitches. Or golf players, they had to grow the grass and maintain the grass. That's the case in our sport. We have to look after everything. That's all. Thank you for your attention. Anything you want is my email address. Feel free to contact me. Thank you very much.
Buen día, buenos días.
Good morning. First of all, I'd like to thank the organization for having invited me, which is very important for me, for my company, and I'd like to thank you all for being here today. My name is Peptur. I come from Ibiza. I'm going to turn 60, and since 27, I have been the director of the disco Pacha in Ibiza. And before that, I was in banking, which was how I got to know my boss, Mr. Urgel, whom I know from before he opened Pacha. When he bought the land where Pacha is located in the north area of the Bay of Ibiza, which is nowadays the Manhattan of Ibiza, but in the 70s, in the year 70, 71, the only thing that was there was a few crops and a few fincas, a few farmhouses. He was a visionary. He was a peasant, really, but with a lot of vision. He had the idea of buying a piece of land in the middle of nothing, where there was a land that was accessible through a small dust road, and he decided to build a disco there, breaking all of the canons. And he was told to be crazy. Everybody told him, "You're crazy, you're building a disco in the middle of nowhere, the access is very difficult," and on top of it, the owner, who is a lover of the architecture of Ibiza, he built a disco with the image of a old Ibicenco house. And a lot of people still believe that Pacha is an old farmhouse that had been refurbished. But no, he built it brand new in the shape of the old Ibicenco farmers. And he created this business, which initially was not a business at all. There were 2 bars, and actually it was at the time in which the hippie boom took place in the Isle of Wight, in San Francisco, in Amsterdam. And that type of people came to Ibiza, people from all over the world, people from all sorts of different origins and tendencies. And already in Spain, in the coastal areas, we were having tourism since a few years, and in Ibiza we actually had a special kind of tourism who was actually escaping from the mainstream. There were also the people from the naughty boys from the good families and the freakies, if you want. It was a bit a place where the Ibicenco people would not really go to. You know, there were English and French and Italians and people from all over the world who were freakies, really. You know, all of these people meted in Pachá. They went with their dogs and, you know, Pachá had a smell of patchouli at the time, which was the scent of the time. And the owner of Pachá continued believing in his project. These people that came from very many different places started to talk about Pachá, and slowly but surely, this aura of Pachá started to appear. There were 2 bars at the beginning. Nowadays, Pachá has 25 bars, and we're the small one between the big ones. But we continue to exist. The world changes, the world advances, Pachá does as well. Regarding technology, we try to have the best service regarding computering, internet, sales, etc. But here we're talking about innovation, and I think for Pachá, innovation also has to do with looking back, because we give a lot of importance to people, because I remember that at my age we saw the process from the beginning of tourism. I remember that at a beach in Ibiza, people hardly spoke any languages at all. Nowadays, a waiter maybe speaks 5 languages, but in the past that was not the case, really. They could just smile very widely. So we try to sort of bind new technology with this old concept of the human person. So it's the attitude. You know, I'd rather have someone who is going to serve me with a big smile than someone who can, you know, might be very high tech but is not nice at all. So in a small company like us, because we are the small ones among the big discos, people who don't really know the business don't really understand why in peak season we are only 422 people working there. So regarding innovation, what has Pachá done as innovation? From my point of view, who saw Pachá before it ever existed. Well, we've tried to keep the spirit. We've tried to export this Pachá spirit, and I'll explain that later. But at the same time, we innovate in many things. For example, any room in a disco has different ambiances. In Pachá, for instance, we have 2 ambiances. It was opened in '76, and we have the classic Pachá, and then we have a Japanese garden with a sushi restaurant. So we combine different areas, and it's also normal to have different music rooms in one same place. So nowadays we have 4 different music areas. So we have 4 DJs for 4 tastes. You like funk, you can go to the funky room. You like house, you can go to the house room. You like salsa and Spanish music, you have patacha. You don't want music, you can go to the terrace. You will be fine. So this is an innovation. It was an innovation at its time, really. Another important innovation that Pacha has undertaken is that when legislation still was not yet sort of determining that we should have that, we had a department of primary aid. So if someone had drank too much or fell or hurt himself or took too much drugs, we had someone who was able to attend the people, someone who had an epileptic attack, for instance. It happened many times. So we were pioneers in that too. Another aspect. 8 years ago, Ricardo had the medal, the award he got an award for tourism, for night tourism. Then when we talk about alternative tourism, people who come to Mallorca and Ibiza, people who come partying, is that alternative tourism? Well, no, it isn't really. Alternative is not something that you find in all of the guides. Pacha is well known for what it has. I mean, a lot of people come to Ibiza attracted by the leisure and musical offer that we have and the party offer that we have. There are people in Ibiza that are not comfortable with the important role of those discotheques in Ibiza. They don't realize that there are places in the world that would pay a lot of money to have what we have in Ibiza, something that some locals have not appreciated at all. So really it is a sector that very often, due to the ignorance on the issue, sort of reject that, because it's not the same having an after-hour club than having a party in a finca in the middle of the fields where you can burn half of the island if you're not careful. An after-hour has a permit and they have certain regulations that they comply with. I mean, in my case, for instance, we always closed the disco at 8 o'clock in the morning. Some other places opened up until 10 or 11. So for me, it was enough, until 8. Then people can go somewhere else if they like. But in any case, it is a clean offer, like it can, like any other offer can be, like a hotel, like hiking or climbing or whatever. So. Basically, what I can say is that nowadays we are a small group of companies, and if we bind Pacha Disco, the Hotel Pacha, the boutiques, and a few more things that we have, we're talking about a team of about 700 people. And that is still small. I mean, really. Pacha believes in people. And that is something that is clear to me, really. Our level of business, well, we are small because our capacity is 3,300 people compared to other discos that are competitive. Our competitors, we are small. But in 2006, we turned 26,000 million euros, which is not bad. And in 2000, we turned around 40 millions. And I think this year we might have a bit less because we have the Leo, which is another part of our business included, that opened recently. Basically, Ricardo Urgel opened his businesses and he controlled them. So he was not franchising them. Nowadays we have Empuria Brava, Bequeria, Ballet, Bilbao, Bonares, Buenos Aires, Bucios in Brazil, Pineda, Buenos Aires, Marrakech, Moscow, Munich, New York, Sao Paulo, Town and Chic, Sitges, Torrevieja, Valencia, and in Project Abu Dhabi, San Petersburgo, 2 more in Brazil. The list is very long. The company continues to grow, and I'm always astonished by the fact that a business of fashion, a business of leisure continues to grow like this. To me is astonishing because something that is fashionable today, it's not fashionable tomorrow. And this place in particular continues to be fashionable. So we had Sitges, then we had Playa Daro, then he opened in 3 places in Empuria Brava, and then in 73 Ibiza, and in the 80s he bought Pacha Madrid, and he continued to control that. He was the main shareholder with a few friends, and Pacha Madrid was very hype for some time. And they ended up selling it to Mr. Trabote, and nowadays it is a franchise. The franchises are franchises that sell more or less well, but it's difficult to import this kind of philosophy. I mean, McDonald's, for instance, have the same setup in all of the places. The tables have the same shape. But of course, if you compare Pacha Moscow with Pacha Ibiza, they're not really similar. Obviously, the headquarters in Ibiza is the sort of main primary image, but we can't sort of copy the garden. We have palm trees, and in Moscow they don't. But first of all, they take a good look at the privé, really, at the VIP area. We had at the time in the 80s like Miss Pacha, Mr. Pacha. We had a scenario where the models would catwalk. We had several tables. We had a jury. We had a few bottles. People would watch. They would drink. They would take notes, and people started to want to be there. And people wanted to have the tables. What do you do with the tables? I want to have one of those tables. And nowadays, having a table at Pacha VIP is not that easy. And we have a whole team of 25 people working on the VIP area. So Pacha basically is based on work, perseverance, work, hope and perseverance, constance. So Mr. Urgel, who started off with a flower power party with the music that was used at the time and is being reintroduced in the market now. I mean, at the time it was music for people who knew the music, and nowadays it is a boom among youngsters, and they sort of dress up and they wear wigs and everything. And the Flower Power is a typical party that was launched with Ricardo and with Pete, who actually creates that party. The last invention that Ricardo has brought about is the Leo, which was El Divino. El Divino was a disco in the area of the harbor, of the marina, and he's refurbished the whole place with a lot of love, and it's turned it into a very emblematic place. Well, he's not discovered anything, because a cabaret restaurant is not a new concept. But the place where it is located, in the bay, the refurbishment has created a disco and restaurant that is very special. And before it opened, it was already impossible to get a table to eat there, and we can feed 450 people. And we had important people looking after the cabaret, like people from the Tricycle. Tricycle is a very special theater company in Spain. So we have the restaurant, we have the show, and people just wanted to be there at any price. And in November, we're having the presentation of two new Volkswagens, the App and the Beetle, and we'll have about 12,000 people coming over to the island. They'll come. There'll be journalists. We'll have sellers from all over the world, and we are very proud to be able to host all these people.
Es caro, que no hubiera manera de.
So we're happy to say that up to now, there was no way to get a free table in our Leo. So basically, I'd like to say it's very attractive. It's very nice to say, to hear from people that they've seen someone on the other side of the world with a Pacha T-shirt saying, "Hey, you've been to Pacha?" "Yeah, I've been to Pacha in Ibiza." "Yeah, cool." And I mean, really, in the 27 years that I have been there, we've been very successful. We really work very hard. The owner is someone who works hard as well. He could have retired a long time ago. He has enough money to do so since a long time, and he doesn't. He works. And when I told him yesterday I was coming to Palma to give a speech, he said, "Well, that's work. Everything's work in the end. So thank you very much for your attention."